I really think it's impossible to overstate the importance of releasing victim consciousness. If you think about it, spirit is what you really are. If you tend to agree with that kind of thing, I'm not trying to convince the non believers, but let's hypothesize spirit is what you really are. And for some crazy reason, spirit decided to come down and be you for a while. To be this limited mortal human in a body that feels pain, that gets injured, and always dies in the end. Like, why the hell would anybody do that on purpose? And a lot of the arguments against past life regression actually come down to victim consciousness. Why would somebody decide to be born as handicapped, starving, beaten, whatever? And the best analogy that I can give for that is, imagine if you got paid $1,000,000 to have a really bad, really realistic nightmare that you would forget within 5 minutes after you wake up the next morning. So you have this nightmare. It's really bad. And you wake up in the morning and you're kind of freaked out. Takes you a moment to even realize that the nightmare was a nightmare and not your reality. And you're kind of traumatized. You're kind of freaked out. And then like 5 minutes later, you can't really even remember what it was except that it was bad. And the next day, you barely even remembered that you had a nightmare. But you do have $1,000,000. So spiritually, that's kind of the way I look at the negativity in reincarnation. So why am I talking about reincarnation when I'm supposed to be talking about victim consciousness? And that is because if we are going to get rid of victim consciousness, I think it's helpful to have a wider perspective on our reality. We signed up for not necessarily a nightmare, but compared to where we're from, definitely a nightmare. And for some, that nightmare is way more horrible than for others. But for everybody, it's a huge downgrade from where you're from. So, one of my key things that I say a lot is either you can be a victim or you can be a manifestor. And in reality, you're a manifestor. But you can manifest being a victim, for sure. And if you manifest being a victim, that's an experience that you can't do once you leave your body. So it's a unique human experience that you might have chosen to have. But if we are going to create from a place of authenticity and manifest the lives that we want to live, it's important to sit in the driver's seat rather than be that back seat driver that's yelling and screaming and freaking out. So, to be clear once again, I am not saying that there are no victims on the most obvious level. There are horrible things that happen to people. There are people that are victimized by other people. There are whole groups of people victimized by other people for reasons of race, religion, or political belief, class issues. There are all kinds of things. But the energy within you of being a victim is an energy of imploding in your pain. It's an energy that you don't create your reality. When no matter what kind of victim you think you are, you're still creating your reality to a large degree. So we come to Earth to be limited, to struggle. And just like we lift weights, if we lift weights, when we lift weights, not so that we can lift weights later, in case that is needed, but so that we're stronger in our day-to-day activities. We incarnate on Earth in a realm where victimization is possible, so that we can snap out of the illusion. And in the process, we get stronger and wiser. If we're floating up on a cloud and zero gravity, zero aging, zero death, zero challenge, we don't evolve the same way. We probably evolve in other ways, but it's not as intense and concentrated. So the victim mentality is really seductive, because if I can say, none of this is my fault, that kind of feels good. The ego loves saying that. This is not my fault at all. This is other people's fault. I didn't do anything. And so, but what's way more satisfying is manifesting a reality based on your uniqueness. That's an amazing thing to do. And when you get into that mode of manifestation, rather than being victimized by everything, you look at everything in the outer world that you don't like as a reflection of some part of you that you need to work on. And then you do the work. You have a revelation, you become wiser, you become more enlightened, and you do the ultimate thing, which is to wake up to heaven while on earth, to embody the higher realms here. That's the ultimate goal in my mind for being on Earth. I'm sure once we're past Earth, we leave that goal in the dust. But we do retain the wisdom, the knowledge, the strength that we gained having that goal. So moving past our victim consciousness is really crucial, because it's like going from one reality to another. And that's what the whole world is doing right now. And that's why the world is going so crazy right now. Because we are moving from victim consciousness to manifestation. And in that movement, and I probably have to do a whole video just on that, all of our victimizations, all of our issues are coming up right in our face. We're not able to ignore some of these things like we used to like to do. And we're making way for a new earth, a new reality, where rather than seeing ourselves as a victim, we see ourselves in a feedback loop of spiritual growth. Whatever happens to me, however I get victimized, if I see that as something I somehow manifested without blaming myself, that's just more victimization, I start to learn how the energy that I put out creates. Sometimes it creates what I want, and sometimes it creates what I don't want. And as I learn more about that, I learn more about how I manifest, how the universe works. Magic. And it's an amazing thing. And it's humbling. So what I would advise on a practical level, write down your statements of victimization. You know, my dad left, broke my heart. My mom beat me. I felt excluded in all these ways and rejected. Those are some of my victim stories. I bet you have good ones too. But then when you start to look at, as you resolve the pain and the emotional avoidance of those issues, you realize the depth that it created, the understanding it created, and the whole tangled web of human insanity that the world has been in for who knows how long. And even though it seems like it's getting worse, I think that's just because it's getting better. That'll make perfect sense to many of you and sound like absolute nonsense to many of you also. So, I would say write down your victim statements. And it's not about talking yourself out of the fact that you were victimized. I am not saying you were not victimized. I am not saying I was not victimized. What I'm saying is you are not a victim, and I am not a victim. We are manifestors, and part of our manifestation has been to explore victimhood. I'm done with it. How about you? Thanks so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment. And if you would like to do one-on-one work with me, send me an email, andysway@yahoo.com. And you can also go on Calendly. There's a link on my website. And you can schedule a free 15-minute consultation with me to see if my work is something that would resonate with your journey. And if it isn't, there's no obligation. We talk for 15 minutes, maybe less, and that's it. So thank you so much. And if you want to find out more about what I do, andysway.com. It's easy. Thanks. Bye.